Hey folks, so in light of the death of Jeffrey Epstein, the billionaire child molester just happened to mysteriously die in New York City's federal prison facility after having all kinds of damning information, potentially on all kinds of very prominent people. Talk of quote-unquote conspiracy theories is quite widespread in the United States. And most of the voices promoting what you call conspiracy theories are either libertarian or right-wing. I thought I would make a video today in which I talked about the Marxist or leftist view of conspiracy theories. So, let's go over that, shall we? So first of all, what is a conspiracy theory? Well, it is a theory, something that you believe could be true, about people conspiring or getting together to plan and coordinate their actions. Now, if you think about it, the concept of a conspiracy theory isn't of itself not that big of a deal, right? We all think about other people possibly getting together and conspiring to engage in activities. There's nothing particularly suspicious or outlandish about the idea that people might conspire. There's nothing particularly crazy about theorizing that people might get together and conspire. However, the term conspiracy theory is one of those trigger words that immediately has you thinking about people who say the moon landing didn't happen, people who believe in UFOs, people who, think all kinds of outrageous things, believe in reptile people, or think that the world is secretly controlled by the Bavarian Illuminati or something like that. And it's weird how words like conspiracy theory take on a different meaning. All a conspiracy theory is a theory about a conspiracy, something that's pretty normal. But yet, this word has taken on a connotation, and that shows the power of language. So, there's a couple points that might be of interest when we talk about conspiracy theories from a Marxist perspective. One of which is that many conspiracy theories revolve around what you might call secret societies. Now, secret societies are something that has existed throughout history. In fact, the overthrow of feudalism and the establishment of capitalism around the world probably wouldn't have happened without the work of what you might refer to as secret societies. As the Roman Catholic Church had a hegemony during the time of feudalism, it was almost a necessity for anyone who believed in science, anyone who believed in trying to expand the mercantile class and their role in the economy. It was almost a necessity for them to form some kind of underground or secretive organization. There's many parts of Europe that if you so much as engaged in scientific research or questioned the fact that the Earth was the center of the universe, as was promoted by the Catholic Church, if you did that, you were risking being burned at the stake. And so organizations like the Bavarian Illuminati that was formed in the 1700s as people in Bavaria who didn't believe in the Roman Catholic teaching and believed in science rather than the teachings of the Roman Catholic Church, these groups existed. Freemasonry certainly existed as well. And the emerging capitalist class of Europe certainly conspired and certainly formed secret societies in order to promote its views. And what's interesting is that these secret societies certainly played a role in connecting the emerging economies of Western Europe with the rest of the world. It was the Silk Road and trade with China and trade with Asia that kind of laid the basis in a lot of ways for the emergence of capitalism. It was during the Crusades that we saw many Europeans go to the Middle East to fight and then come back, bringing with them some of the knowledge and the widespread mathematical and scientific breakthroughs that were happening during that time in the Middle East, during what was called the Islamic Enlightenment. That was ultimately why the Pope suppressed the Knights Templar, the organization of warrior monks formed for the Crusade, because they were promoting scientific teaching and things that the Catholic Church didn't like that were ultimately a threat to the feudal order. Furthermore, conspiracies happen. The members of various classes in society get together and conspire, right? And they work in their own economic interest. However, a lot of times this isn't really done in a very secretive way. all kinds of organizations exist for the purpose of advancing the business interests of American capital. There are all kinds of associations, the National Association of Manufacturers. There are associations of energy producers and oil companies. There are associations of banking interests. There are chambers of commerce on both the state, local, and national level in the United States. And these are all places where those who wish to advance the interests of business owners and capitalists get together and plan how to advance their own interests in the political process. Is this a conspiracy? Well, it's not particularly secretive. They're very open about wanting to advance their own interests, wanting to advance their own profits, and, embracing political leaders who agree with them. It's not really secretive. So is it a conspiracy theory to believe that capitalists get together and try to advance their own profits and favor politicians and political action that advances their own profits? Not particularly. It seems like just common sense. But is that to say that there aren't more clandestine organizations of wealthy people who get together and plan their actions? I think it's certainly a possibility, but that in itself doesn't point to the problem. And this is where Marxists largely disagree with most people who go around promoting conspiracy theories. People who think that the world is ruled by the Illuminati or the reptile people or the Freemasons or the Vatican kind of are missing the point, which is that even if there are a lot of people from your favored secret shadowy elite group that secretly run the world, they run it in order to advance their own profits. That's pretty clear. And these people have lots of power because they are owners of major centers of means of production. Because they control the commanding heights of the economy, they tend to have exceptional amounts of power. Conspiracies certainly happen among the rich and powerful, and factions certainly exist among the rich and powerful as well. Marxists generally refer to the phenomenon of Bonapartism, when one section of the capitalist class begins to suppress other sections in the hopes of stabilizing the economy and holding off a crisis. Karl Marx observed this very closely in 1851 in France, when Louis Bonaparte seized control of the French government with his Party of Order in the hopes of stabilizing French society and holding off the danger of revolution and economic catastrophe. And this happens. Sections of the capitalist class suppress other sections, conspire against them, maneuver against them, try to use the government to benefit their own section of the capitalist class at the expense of other sections. This understanding of fights among the ruling elite, again, is it really a conspiracy theory, or is it just pointing out the natural workings of the system? And one of the things you'll observe about conspiracy theories that I think Marxists would find to be very problematic is they all kind of seem to absolve capitalism as being the problem, right? The problem isn't that all the major centers of economic power are controlled by a group of people who operate them strictly for the purpose of making profits for themselves. The problem isn't the irrational profit motive and the drive of billionaires and bankers to make profits. The problem is simply some conspiracy, and that somehow, the implication is, capitalism would be fine as long as this conspiracy were purged. If somehow the Freemasons or the Illuminati or the reptile people or whatever you want to call them, the shadowy elite that conspiracy theorists believe in, if somehow they were gotten rid of, well then capitalism would be totally fine. There's no systemic problem. And that is where many Marxists strongly object to conspiracy narratives. I will say that in many cases it seems like conspiracy narratives really go to extreme. They look past some of the apparent corruption, some of the fact that money equals power, some of the fact that big corporations have too much money, and they embellish things to very extreme. You've got to have the secret elite, gathering in places and sacrificing children before an altar of Satan, or eating goats, or drinking the blood of young babies, or you've got to have some Hollywood horror movie script. Meanwhile, you can't point to the horrific realities that are right before your face, right? You've got all these forces that say every time there's a mass shooting in the United States that it must be staged somehow by the government. You've got forces talking about all kinds of things, but yet they never want to look at systemic problems. They never really want to see the system in which profits come before people is the problem. The problem always has to be some sinister plot, and if we just purge the existing system of that sinister plot, everything will be fine. They don't seem to see the problems as being rooted in the system. So there's a strong Marxist critique of what you could call conspiracy theories. But I think a lot of Marxists make the mistake of making it sound as if conspiracies could never happen, as if the rich and powerful people in the United States don't somehow conspire in order to keep their wealth, and don't operate sometimes in alliance with each other in ways that benefit them, right? There are many events throughout U.S. history, such as the assassination of John F. Kennedy, that you could look at and wonder and ask questions about. And there's nothing wrong with that. And the feeling that somehow doing that is a threat to the Marxist narrative or the Marxist worldview, I think, is a deep mistake. So, on the one hand, I would urge those who promote conspiracy theories to slow down and look more at systemic issues. And rather than writing very complicated fictional or complex narratives about what they think is happening, look at what is happening before your eyes and try to see it in systemic terms. On the other hand, I would urge Marxists to be a little more open-minded and tolerant and listen to those who believe in conspiracy theories. The fact that so many Americans think that there is something deeply rotten in the government and are so distrustful of everything they see in mainstream media is a good sign. It shows that this could be the beginning of some level of class consciousness, and that the notion that members of the ruling class, of the capitalist class, of the rich and powerful in the United States, members of the government, the police, and the military apparatus, the notion that they might conspire to some degree or other isn't outlandish. It's something that is very, very possible, and in periods of economic crisis and political crisis, in which one section of the ruling class wants to restore order, Bonapartist maneuvering also comes in the form of conspiring. That's overall a Marxist view of conspiracy theories. I hope that this sheds some light onto the Marxist view of conspiracy theories. Conspiracies do happen, but conspiracies themselves are not the essence of the problem. The problem is that we have a system based on profits, and a small group of billionaires and bankers control the economy. And the way out is for the people to take control of the major centers of economic power, and for the economy to be planned in order to serve public good and not profits. The way out of the crisis is socialism.